So apparently, the Oklahoma Sooners are not done making moves because today it has been formally announced that they are bringing in former head coach of both Utah State and Texas Tech, Matt Wells, to aid in high school relations. And we need to break down what this move could mean for the future of Oklahoma recruiting. Before we do, though, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, Y for yes, N for no. Are you excited about the Sooners bringing in Matt Wells in this capacity? And let me know what you're thinking. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification. I'm on my push to 15,000 subscribers, and I'd love to have you along for that journey. And if you enjoyed the content, like and comment down below. Those interactions, though small, are massive to content creators such as myself, and both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But with all that being said, let's hop right into this. And first and foremost, I wasn't the most well-versed in Matt Wells, so I had to do a bit of research, and there were some things that stood out to me. One of the things that I find interesting is that Oklahoma is able to get in someone for this role that has head coaching experience both at the Division I Power 5 level in Texas Tech and then at Utah State. It's not every day that you're able to get in someone with that type of experience, and sure, we can talk about Texas Tech not going the way one would have liked. However, one of the things, I can imagine it being incredibly difficult to try and build a program your way during the pandemic due to the restrictions that we would have to deal with in recruiting and the uncertainty of the season as a whole. I don't think that that'd be easy to try and do. Nonetheless, though, it's very rare that you're able to get in someone with this type of head coaching experience into a role such as the one he's going to undertake for the Sooners. But one of the things that really stood out to me in my research of Matt Wells was some of his experience at Utah State. And that's where things got a little bit interesting and kind of cool. And not that it matters in his capacity of what he's going to be going with the Sooners, but it was just interesting tidbits that I wanted to share from what I found. First and foremost, when Matt Wells was head coach of Utah State, Josh Heupel was actually his offensive coordinator in 2015. What's more is before Matt Wells became head coach of Utah State, when he was offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator for that team was none other than Dave Aranda. And so those kind of things just stood out to me as interesting. In Utah State, Montana State, I'm always impressed when I see how many coaches have come from those organizations. It's actually kind of crazy to sit and look at. And nonetheless, even though I think those tidbits are really interesting and cool, and that's why I wanted to share them, they ultimately don't answer the question of what does Matt Wells bring to the table in terms of Oklahoma football recruiting? And honestly, I don't know the answer to that yet. What I do think, however, is that it's really cool that Oklahoma is getting somebody dedicated for this role in and of itself. I think most institutions across the nation should look into doing something like this because recruiting is such a paramount piece of college football. Recruiting is such a core value of what makes college football teams successful. It's not the only thing, but it's a massive component to it. And so having somebody dedicated to making sure your relations with other high schools, with high school coaches, are healthy is only going to create a healthy recruiting environment. So for that, I think it's awesome. However, one of the things I'm very much interested in is, does Matt Wells' previous experience lend itself to success in this role? Because he has experience in the state of Texas. He has experience in Utah. So he's been in different areas and he's had to recruit at both of those places. And given that, I'm wondering if that's going to be something that we could see provide a tangible benefit to Matt Wells in this instance. At the end of the day, I don't really know what this means for Oklahoma recruiting. I think it's awesome that they're getting somebody in this role, and I'm really not as familiar with Matt Wells in recruiting as I probably should be outside of what he did at Texas Tech. But like I said to begin this video, even though the Texas Tech experience probably wasn't what he wanted it to be, I don't think it was probably easy going into that environment, trying to turn a program around and build a program the way you would like to during the onset and through a pandemic. With all the chaos that created, all the uncertainty, and all the things you weren't allowed to do, I definitely sympathize with any head coach that tried to turn around a program or build it their way during that time period and just weren't successful at it, because I can imagine that was incredibly difficult. But I am very much interested to see how this will be a positive effect for the Oklahoma Sooners. I think the position being created in and of itself is a net positive. I'm just interested to see to what degree of a difference is this going to make. Though I don't have the answer to that question, what I do look upon is the experience Matt Wells brings to the table and the locations he has. And I think when you look at both of those, you want to keep keep a strong presence in the state of Texas, especially with A&M doing what they're doing now and Texas Longhorns trying so desperately to get back to where they want to be. Then you look at what Dave Aranda's doing in Baylor. You need as strong of a presence as you can possibly have in the state of Texas. Adding in Matt Wells is something that can only strengthen that, something that OU really relies on anyways, and have done a great job maintaining. But at the end of the day, I'm most interested in hearing from y'all. What are your thoughts on the hiring of Matt Wells, and what do you think this will mean for Oklahoma recruiting? I really can't wait to hear from y'all. Hop down to the comments, let me know. That's it. See ya.